In today's world, where speed has become a religion and success is measured by how fast we move, humanity is slowly losing its connection to itself. Every morning, millions of people wake up with anxious minds, rushing through endless to-do lists, chasing goals, and maintaining images just to feel accepted. We live in an age overflowing with information, yet we understand so little about our own hearts. We possess every tool for instant communication, and yet we feel more isolated than ever before. Amid the noise of the digital age, the voice of our inner being grows faint. And there, the teachings of the Buddha, those spoken over 2,500 years ago, still echo like a bell awakening us from the long night of human confusion. For the Dharma does not belong to any era. It is not only a path for monks in remote mountains but a living map for anyone lost in the modern world. When the Buddha spoke of dukkha, suffering, he was not being pessimistic. He was pointing to reality, to the unease that lies beneath every success, to the emptiness that lingers despite all material comfort. He showed that the root of suffering does not reside in the outer world, but within the mind itself. The mind is the source of every perception, thought, and action. When the mind is in turmoil, the world appears chaotic. When the mind is calm, the world becomes peaceful. The modern world has no shortage of knowledge, but it lacks wisdom. We know how to build extraordinary machines, but we do not know how to master our own thoughts. We can conquer outer space, yet remain prisoners of fear within our hearts. We escape our emotions through endless distractions, trying to fill the emptiness of life with possessions, only to feel emptier than before. And it is precisely here that the Buddha's teachings become more essential than ever. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, everything arises and passes away. Nothing can be held forever. Yet modern humanity lives in direct opposition to this truth. We cling to fame, wealth, relationships, even to our self-image. We try to freeze what is ever-changing. And in doing so, we create our own suffering. Impermanence is not something to fear, it is an invitation to live more deeply, more consciously. When we realize that nothing lasts, we finally begin to cherish each moment, each breath, each soul that crosses our path. Amid the constant stream of work and information, what we need most today is the art of stopping. Stopping does not mean withdrawing from life, it means seeing it clearly. When we pause, our minds are no longer swept away by habit and reaction. We begin to see the roots of our suffering, the desires, fears, and illusions that govern us. That pause is the doorway to wisdom, what the Buddha called mindfulness. Mindfulness is not merely a meditation technique, it is a way of living. It is the ability to be fully present in each moment, aware of everything as it is, without judgment. When the mind rests in the present, the past no longer binds us, and the future no longer frightens us. We cease to live in resistance or craving, and instead, we live in deep acceptance. From that acceptance arises a profound energy, the energy of freedom, understanding, and compassion. The Buddha taught that there is no path to happiness, for happiness is the path. Every mindful step is a step home, a return to ourselves. In the modern world, people constantly chase happiness. Somewhere far away, in a better job, an ideal partner, a more comfortable life. But Buddhism reminds us that happiness has always been here, waiting quietly in the present moment. It lives in each breath, in the morning birdsong, in the stillness we discover when we stop running. The Buddha's lessons for modern life are not bound to rituals or doctrines, they are woven into daily practice. When we learn to live without attachment, we are no longer ruled by comparison or fear. When we love without grasping, we free ourselves from the chains of suffering. When we let go, we become as light as clouds drifting across the sky. These truths are not distant or mystical, they are found in each breath, each step, each mindful glance. The Buddha did not give humanity a rigid philosophy, but a way of being, a path both simple and profound, requiring the courage to look inward. In today's world, where everyone strives to become someone, his teachings remind us that happiness does not come from becoming, it comes from being. When we stop trying to prove ourselves, stop running from our emotions, and stop fearing the unknown, we finally begin to live. Thus, Lessons from the Buddha for Modern Life is not a journey back into the past, but a journey back into awareness, the very thing modern humanity has lost. The Buddha did not teach us to escape the world, but to live within it without being consumed by it. It is the art of being free amid attachment, peaceful amid chaos, and still amid the storm. For no matter how much time passes, no matter how far technology advances, the essence of being human remains unchanged. We still long for happiness, fear suffering, and seek meaning in this brief life. And within these ancient teachings, we find the timeless answer, that the path to peace is not out there, but within, in each breath, each thought, each living moment. That if we look deeply into the world today, we will see that people no longer live with themselves, but live like fugitives, running from fear, from emptiness, from their own emotions. We are caught in the vortex of must have, must achieve, must become, forgetting one simple truth: no one can grasp happiness when the mind is still bound. The Buddha called this tanha, craving, the root of suffering. It is not merely material desire, but the subtle attachment within the mind, the wish to be praised, the fear of criticism, the need to control, to be loved, to feel important. It is this craving that keeps us in a constant state of tension, forever chasing the mirage of happiness without ever touching it. Meanwhile, the Buddha's teaching begins with something that seems simple: see things as they are. No adding, no subtracting, no interpretation. When one can look at one's emotions without being swept away, simply aware, at that very moment, freedom begins. For freedom does not come from changing circumstances, but from no longer being ruled by one's own mind. The Buddha once said, "No enemy can harm you as much as your own untrained mind." That saying, more than ever, reflects the mirror of the modern world. We conquer many things, yet we lose to ourselves. Modern people often seek methods to relieve stress, think positively, or develop themselves, but those are only outer garments if they lack the foundation of mindfulness. The Dharma does not teach us to modify ourselves to become better by social standards, but to understand ourselves. When we understand, we no longer fight with ourselves. When we understand, we no longer have to pretend to be happy. Understanding is the deepest form of compassion. It begins with facing what is truly within: anger, fear, or pain. One of the Buddha's core teachings for humanity is non-self, the understanding that there is no fixed I that exists. Our entire life is a continuous flow of emotions, thoughts, memories, and reactions, always changing. When we see this, we are no longer imprisoned by the image we have created of ourselves. Modern people often carry the heavy burden of identity. Who am I? What must I be? How must I succeed? Yet those very definitions distance us from true living. Anatta, non-self, does not mean denying oneself, but letting go of the illusion of control. When we are no longer bound by I and mine, we begin to live lightly, naturally, more freely than ever. Today's world glorifies effort, but the Buddha spoke of non-doing, action without ego. A mindful person acts without the need to prove anything. They do what is right simply because it is right, not for recognition. They live like water, flexible, unresisting, yet capable of carving through stone. In modern workplaces, where competition and comparison happen every minute, this may seem impossible. But if we look closely, non-doing is the most enduring strength. For when we no longer strive to become, we act with clarity and without the strain of ambition. Another lesson humanity needs now more than ever is impermanence. Rather than a philosophy, impermanence is a truth we can feel in every moment. The breath comes and goes, emotions arise and fade, loved ones depart, the body grows old. We fear loss because we fail to see the changing nature of all things. But the Buddha showed that it is precisely because of impermanence that life has meaning. If everything lasted forever, would we still know how to cherish? Impermanence teaches us to love while we can, to live while we breathe, to smile amid change. It does not make us pessimistic, but humble, knowing that everything is only temporary, and therefore, we do not cling. In a world ruled by technology and speed, humanity must learn the art of stillness. Stillness is not silence, but the ability to hear the voice of the true heart amid the noise of life. A morning without checking the phone, a meal without distraction, a moment of sitting quietly just to breathe, that is meditation. Meditation is not escaping the world, but returning to live fully in it. Only when the mind is calm can we see things as they are, and only then can wisdom arise. The Buddha taught, the mind is the root of all things. Meaning that if we wish to change the world, we must first change the mind. Yet modern people often do the opposite, they try to change everything outside to suit the turmoil within. They change jobs, change homes, change partners. Yet suffering remains, because what was never changed is the mind itself. When we begin to turn inward, to observe ourselves, a new space opens, the space of understanding. And that understanding does not come from books, but from direct experience in every living moment. Ultimately, the greatest lesson the Buddha offers our era is that compassion and wisdom must go hand in hand. Compassion without wisdom can become weakness, wisdom without compassion can become coldness. In a polarized world, where judgment and division prevail, these two are the medicine of healing. Compassion allows us to feel another's suffering, wisdom prevents us from being consumed by it. When both are present, we can love deeply while keeping our hearts in peace. A world full of wounds can only be healed when people truly listen to each other with compassion and see each other through the eyes of understanding. These teachings are never outdated. They are a compass for every age. In the modern world, we may not wear saffron robes or chant sutras daily, but we can still live the Buddha's spirit, by walking slower, seeing deeper, and loving sincerely. For in the end, enlightenment is not something distant, it is the ability to live mindfully in the midst of everyday life, amid the sound of traffic, the rush of deadlines, the hurried conversations. Right there, where life unfolds, the path of awakening begins. Amid the ever-changing modern world, the Buddha's teachings are not merely ancient philosophy but a medicine that heals the spiritual illness of our time, disconnection. We are connected to thousands of people through screens, yet cannot connect with our own hearts. We live in the cloud of data, yet our minds are covered with the fog of delusion. It is within this lostness that the Dharma appears as a torch illuminating the dark night of ignorance, helping us realize that everything we seek outside is already within us. The Buddha taught that all suffering begins with ignorance, the failure to see clearly. Humans suffer not because of circumstances, but because they cannot see the true nature of those circumstances. We grieve over loss because we believe something belongs to us. Yet in the light of wisdom, we see that nothing truly belongs to us at all. Even this body is but a temporary combination of earth, water, wind, and fire. When we see this, we no longer cling. Loss is no longer a tragedy but part of the natural cycle, like autumn leaves falling, not to end, but to make way for new growth. The Buddha called this Yatthadasana, seeing things as they really are. When we perceive things in their true nature, unclouded by bias or desire, the mind becomes clear and still like a tranquil lake. In the modern world, people often view everything through the lens of want and don't want, wanting success, wanting love, not wanting failure, not wanting pain. But when we see only through these two extremes, we never grasp the wholeness of life. For life is not just black and white, it is an endless interplay of colors. Of birth and death, of joy and sorrow. Another profound teaching from the Buddha is the middle way, the path between two extremes, indulgence and self-mortification, pleasure and denial. Modern people often swing between exhaustion from overachievement and collapse from burnout. But the Buddha showed that peace lies not at either extreme, but in balance. The middle way is not passivity, it is mindfulness in every choice. When eating, know you are eating. When working, know you are working. When speaking, know you are speaking. It is this mindfulness that transforms ordinary life into deep meditation. In an age that demands instant reactions, mindfulness is a revolutionary act. Mindfulness is not an attempt to control the mind, but a return to seeing clearly the mind. When a thought arises, we simply know, it is arising. When an emotion comes, we recognize, this is anger, this is fear, this is sadness. No need to reject or cling. Just see clearly, and release gently. Like a river that knows how to flow, the mind, when illuminated by awareness, naturally returns to stillness. The modern world teaches that happiness comes from adding money, adding experiences, adding achievements. But the Buddha taught the opposite. Peace comes from subtracting attachment, craving, and judgment. When we are no longer bound by the additions of the mind, we realize that happiness was always there. It does not need to be created, it only needs to be recognized. For the true nature of the mind is as clear as the sky, only obscured by the clouds of illusion. When the clouds dissolve, the sky has never disappeared, it has always been there, silent, vast, and infinite. The Buddha also taught about dependent origination, that nothing arises by itself, and nothing exists independently. Everything comes into being through conditions. When we understand this, our hearts naturally soften, less anger, less judgment. We see that those who hurt us are themselves victims of ignorance, of unresolved suffering. Instead of resentment, compassion arises. When that compassion blooms, the outer world may remain the same, but our inner world is completely transformed. That is true inner freedom, something no power or wealth can buy. A person who lives with the wisdom of dependent origination knows when to let go. They no longer force life to follow their will, for they understand that everything has its own cause and effect. They act wholeheartedly, then release lightly. They plant seeds without clinging to results. This attitude makes their heart spacious and at ease. In today's competitive world, those who know how to let go are the truly strong ones, for they are not swept up in the invisible struggle of winning and proving. The Buddha also spoke of right action. In an age when negativity can spread with just a few clicks, this teaching becomes especially vital. Right action is not merely refraining from doing wrong, but consciously sowing goodness. Every action, no matter how small, sends out ripples of influence. A kind word can save a soul in despair, a wholesome thought can transform an entire stressful day. When we act with awareness, we become small lights in the darkness of ignorance. And even a small light has the power to dispel a long night. At the heart of all the Buddha's teachings lie mindfulness and compassion. These two cannot be separated, like the two wings of a bird. Mindfulness without compassion becomes rigid, compassion without mindfulness becomes misguided. A true practitioner is not one who abandons the world, but one who lives within it without being defiled by it. When we can love without attachment, help without expecting return, understand without needing to be right, that is the essence of enlightenment. If every person on this planet practiced just one of the Buddha's teachings, do no evil, cultivate good, purify the mind, the world would already be different. Yet this practice is not a matter of force, but the natural result of understanding. When we see the nature of suffering clearly, we no longer wish to create more of it. When we see the fragility of life, we want to live more kindly. When we know that everyone carries fear and pain, compassion naturally arises. The Buddha's lessons do not require us to abandon modern life, only to live it a little differently, to slow down, to look deeper, to listen more carefully. Every time we pause to breathe, we are practicing the Dharma. Every time we forgive, we are meditating. Every time we choose peace over anger, we take one step on the path of awakening. For in the end, the Buddha's teachings are not found in scriptures, but in the way we live each day. And whoever can live with a calm heart amid chaos has already touched the essence of the way. The Buddha once said, "The mind precedes all things." The mind is their chief. The mind creates. In the modern world, where most of human energy is directed outward, to seek, to achieve, to conquer, we forget that all beginnings and endings take place within the mind. No one can truly be happy if the mind has not been tamed. No technology can heal humanity if we continue to nourish anger, jealousy, and fear. Therefore, the deepest lesson the Buddha left us is that practice is not about changing the world, but about transforming consciousness, and when the mind is transformed, the world naturally changes as well. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha pointed out four fundamental realities: there is suffering, there is a cause of suffering, there is an end to suffering, and there is a path leading to that end. Today, when people hear the word suffering, they often think Buddhism is pessimistic, but in truth, the Buddha was simply describing reality. Suffering is not negativity, it is an undeniable fact. We are born, we grow old, we fall ill, we lose, we fear, we love and are separated. But instead of avoiding it, the Buddha taught us to face it directly. When we dare to look into our own suffering, we begin to understand it, and in that understanding, suffering dissolves on its own. Like a lamp lit in the dark, once we see clearly, the darkness is no longer frightening. The cause of suffering, according to the Buddha, is greed, anger, and ignorance. Greed makes us never satisfied, anger burns us from within, ignorance blinds us to the truth. These three poisons are the disease of our age. Modern humans can go anywhere, do anything, but cannot sit quietly with themselves for 5 minutes. The emptiness inside grows larger, and to fill it, we buy, consume, chase after relationships, seek stimulation. But all of it only takes us further from our own stillness. The Buddha did not condemn this, he simply smiled and said, "When you see the root clearly, you will know the way home." That way is the Noble Eightfold Path, 8 factors that lead the mind from delusion to awakening, from suffering to peace. It is not a road to reach somewhere, but a way of living mindfully in every moment. Right view is to see clearly. To see that all things are impermanent, all phenomena are without self, and suffering arises only when the mind clings to what is not real. Modern people lack right view because they are overwhelmed by illusion about themselves, about others, about happiness. When we see through delusion, we no longer expect life to please us, we begin to understand that life comes to teach us. Right thought is right thinking. It means learning to let go of negative thoughts and no longer allowing the mind to be controlled by anger or fear. In this age of information, where every headline can disturb the heart, right thought is the filter that keeps us clear. It teaches us to choose our words, our actions, and our attitudes wisely. Right speech is truthful, kind, and harmonious speech. Today, words are rushed, and social media has turned language into a weapon. But the Buddha reminded us that every word carries karma. A sentence can shatter a heart, or it can heal one. A person with right speech does not speak much, but every word carries the energy of understanding and love. Right action is wholesome conduct. The wise act not from impulse or personal gain, but from an untainted mind. When we do what is right, even in small things, it resonates as peace. Every good deed is a seed sown into the soil of life. It may sprout today or lifetimes later, but it will surely blossom. Right livelihood is earning a living in a way that causes no harm to others or oneself. In this material age, we often trade peace of mind for profit. But the Buddha taught that if our livelihood comes from harm, then even if our stomach is full, the heart remains hungry. Right livelihood is not just about a proper job, but about living in harmony with one's conscience. Right effort is right diligence. Not forcing oneself, but nurturing wholesome states. And letting go of unwholesome ones. Like a gardener, we cannot force the tree to grow, but we can tend the soil, water it, and remove weeds. When effort is directed rightly, the mind naturally awakens. Right mindfulness is dwelling in the present. Not chasing the past or fearing the future, but living with this breath, this step. When the mind is truly here, life is no longer a list of tasks, but a flowing stream. Right mindfulness brings us back to reality, the only place where peace can be found. Right concentration is a stable, undisturbed mind. One who has right concentration is like a mountain in a storm, the winds blow, the rain falls, but the base remains unmoved. In this turbulent world, right concentration is the foundation of serenity, the silent strength that helps us stand firm through all challenges. When these 8 factors intertwine, life itself becomes a path of meditation. There is no need to seek caves or mountains. For the way is nowhere else but right where we stand. The Buddha taught, in the marketplace, if the mind remains unmoved, that is meditation. Modern people think meditation means sitting still with eyes closed, but in truth, meditation is living deeply, listening fully, smiling amidst uncertainty. The wonder is that when we live by these teachings, we not only transform ourselves but also radiate that energy to others. A mindful person can calm an entire room, like a candle lighting others without a word. The Buddha spread no doctrine through power, but through presence. He merely walked in silence, and the world awakened in faith. That is the final lesson of this teaching: enlightenment is not a destination, but a way of living. Every moment of awareness is awakening. Every pause is meditation. Every choice of compassion over anger is the practice of the path. And in living each moment like that, life gradually becomes a luminous journey, not because we are different from others, but because we have returned to our own radiant nature. In the light of the Buddha's teachings, modern humanity can find answers to its deepest longings, the longing for peace, for inner freedom, for a life no longer dragged by endless ambitions and fears. The world today seems to have gone too far in seeking happiness outside, forgetting that the source of peace lies within. The Buddha never taught that one must abandon life to attain enlightenment. He taught how to live in the world and yet be free, to act amid countless conditions yet remain unstained. That is the living wisdom of mindfulness. The human mind, like water, is originally clear. But when stirred by greed, anger, and ignorance, the waves of delusion arise, and we no longer see our own pure nature. The Buddha taught that to understand life, we must first understand the mind. To find peace, we must stop. When the mind becomes still, everything begins to reveal itself as it truly is. This is not a philosophical idea but an experiential truth. One who observes the breath, who recognizes every feeling without judgment, is already taking the first steps on the path to awakening. Amid the rush of modern life, we often think we must do something to change the world, while the Buddha taught that only by changing ourselves can the world truly change. Transformation does not begin with grand actions, but with small moments of mindfulness. When we pause, notice anger rising, or fear appearing, and simply see it, without being swept away. In that very moment of seeing, we begin to free ourselves from the chains of ignorance. These teachings may seem simple, yet they hold the key to the inner freedom humanity longs for. We can live in the city, amidst the noise, and still keep a quiet space within. The Buddha said, "One who masters the mind, even in the marketplace, is a hermit." For stillness is not escape, but the ability to dwell peacefully in the present, whatever the circumstances. If modern people could pause to listen to their own breath, to stop amid the haste, they would realize that nothing needs to be so urgent. Everything comes and goes by the law of dependent origination. When we no longer cling to results, to gain and loss, to winning and losing, the mind becomes light as clouds, free as the wind. This is the spirit of non-abiding. The Buddha taught, not clinging to body, not clinging to mind, not clinging to anything at all, so that every step is unburdened, every action is pure. The essence of the Buddha's teaching lies not in belief or ritual, but in the ability to face truth, even when truth is painful. He does not give happiness, he only shows the way. That way is the Noble Eightfold Path. 8 factors leading to liberation, from right view and right thought to right speech and right concentration. When every step, every word, every thought is grounded in mindfulness and compassion, life itself becomes meditation. One does not need to sit in the mountains, simply living in the world without being carried away by it, that is liberation. Today's world is ruled by speed, technology, and the need to prove oneself. Yet the Buddha showed that the more we chase fame and success, the farther we drift from true happiness. For happiness does not come from having more, but from knowing enough. One who knows contentment is never poor, even with nothing. One who does not know contentment is always poor, even owning the world. This teaching has never grown old, it is a bell of awakening amidst the intoxication of materialism, a call to return to inner stillness. In every breath, we can find the path to freedom. When breathing in, know you are breathing in. When breathing out, know you are breathing out. That alone brings clarity to the mind. In that simplicity, one rediscovers the original essence, a state of complete presence, needing nothing more. The Buddha once said, when one sees impermanence, one no longer fears. For everything we try to hold on to is changing each moment. Understanding this, we live more lightly, love more deeply, and forgive more easily. And when the mind is pure, the world is no longer a place to struggle, but a place to understand and to love. That is the great spiritual heritage the Buddha left to humanity, a path not leading outward, but inward, to the inexhaustible spring of wisdom and compassion within. As human beings gradually walk the path of awakening, they realize that the Buddha's teachings are never separate from everyday life. In truth, every moment of life is a Dharma gate, an opportunity to see the truth. The suffering we go through, the worries, the conflicts, the failures, all are silent teachers revealing to us the nature of impermanence, interdependence, and the emptiness of all things. If we know how to look deeply, even within a single tear lies the seed of enlightenment. For suffering does not come to punish us, but to awaken us. The Buddha once said, no one saves you but yourself. In the context of modern life, this statement becomes even more profound. We live in a world where people seek salvation from outside, from technology, fame, relationships, and dazzling ideals. Yet the Buddha pointed inward, where we can untie the chains created by our own minds. When we sit down, breathe, and observe our body and mind, we are beginning the journey back to ourselves, a pilgrimage without footsteps, yet one that can carry us beyond all suffering. The miracle is that when the mind begins to clear, the world also changes. We no longer see others as enemies, but as reflections of ourselves. Someone who angers us is a mirror, showing us our own anger. Someone who saddens us gives us the chance to learn how to love without attachment. Every interaction in life becomes a field of practice, every word, every glance, every gesture is an opportunity to cultivate mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. Life is no longer a tiring series of collisions, but a flowing stream of continuous learning. And then we begin to understand, wisdom is not the accumulation of knowledge, but the ability to see things as they truly are, without judgment, without embellishment, without craving. Just seeing, just knowing. Just living fully in the present moment. The Buddha taught, the one who knows how to stop amidst the flow of life is the one who is truly free. To stop does not mean to be passive. It means to step out of the unconscious momentum of reaction. When we stop, we see clearly. When we see clearly, we are no longer driven by ignorance. And that is the first step toward liberation. In today's fast-paced life, people often think that enlightenment is something distant, reserved for monks and hermits living in the mountains. But the Buddha never taught that liberation is only for those who renounce the world. He simply taught how not to be bound by it. A father caring for his child with complete love, a mother washing dishes in mindfulness, a worker doing their job without greed, they too are practicing the way. Enlightenment is not far away, it arises in the very midst of ordinary actions, when we act without attachment to the result. When we truly understand this, everything becomes simple. We eat, knowing that we are eating. We speak, knowing that we are speaking. We are angry, knowing that we are angry. We smile, knowing that we are smiling. And in that awareness, the mind becomes transparent, no longer pulled by the past or the future. That is freedom, freedom without leaving the world, freedom in each moment. But to reach such freedom requires courage, the courage to look deeply into oneself, to face the shadows we often avoid, the courage to let go of what is old and no longer serves us, the courage to admit that no one can make us suffer except our own mind. And then, little by little, as we release what burdens us, we find ourselves lighter, our hearts wider, and life itself more compassionate. One of the Buddha's most important teachings is, all beings have Buddha nature. This means that within every person lies the seed of enlightenment, waiting to be nurtured. Even if the mind is clouded by ignorance, that seed remains, indestructible. Every time we choose understanding over judgment, love over hatred, silence over argument, we are watering that seed. One day, when the light of wisdom becomes strong enough, it will pierce through the veil of ignorance and shine forth, like the sun that cannot be hidden forever. The more we live according to the Buddha's teachings, the clearer we see that happiness does not come from attaining something, but from no longer needing to attain anything. It is when we stop running that we begin to see. It is when we stop grasping that we truly possess. Life becomes profound not because it is perfect, but because we can see the beauty in its simplicity, a blooming flower, a child's laughter, a passing breeze, all living sutras of impermanence and presence. And then, in that silence, we realize, what the Buddha wished to leave for humanity was not a religion, but a path of awakening, a way back to ourselves. To see that amidst all changes there remains something unchanging, the luminous, pure, and compassionate nature of mind. When we live from that place, every action gains meaning, every moment becomes practice, and life, though fleeting, becomes infinite. As we reach the end of this journey, lessons from the Buddha for modern life, we realize that the Buddha's teachings are not found in ancient words or distant rituals, but in the very breath moving through us, in every moment of our lives. From thousands of years ago until now, humans have shared the same longing. To live peacefully, to love, to understand themselves. And it was the Buddha who showed that the path to peace is not somewhere far away, it begins right here, in mindfulness. The modern world, though full of comfort and overflowing with information, still carries subtle forms of suffering. We can easily connect with anyone, yet lose our true connection with ourselves. We can own more than ever before, yet feel emptier than ever. We run, we dream, we strive to reach, and then realize that no matter how far we go, our mind has never truly stopped. The Buddha saw this thousands of years ago when he taught that the root of all suffering lies in illusion and attachment, in the restless mind that refuses to dwell in the present moment. When we learn to stop and turn inward, we begin to see something miraculous. Nothing in this life is fixed. Everything arises and passes with each breath. Impermanence is no longer a philosophical idea but a living truth. We look at our loved ones, a sunset, or listen to the falling rain, and suddenly realize how fragile and precious everything is. When we understand impermanence, our heart naturally learns to cherish each moment. When we understand that everything changes, we no longer wish to grasp or compete. In that letting go, we find freedom. And then, we understand that enlightenment is not a mystical state but a return to ourselves, to our breath, to the movements of our own mind. The Buddha did not give us a miracle, he simply taught us how to see the miracles within life itself. A falling leaf, a gentle breeze, a smile between two people, all contain the essence of the Dharma, if we have mindful eyes to see. Life is the greatest school. Every pain is a lesson. Every person we meet is a teacher. When we live with that understanding, nothing is meaningless. Failure teaches us to let go, loss teaches us to love, loneliness teaches us to return inward. And even the smallest moments teach us gratitude. The Buddha once said, "Contentment is wealth, letting go is freedom." If we can see life with a grateful heart, then no matter how harsh the circumstances, we will still feel a quiet stream of peace flowing through each moment of existence. In today's world, we cannot leave the world behind, but we can live within it without being bound. Practice does not have to mean seclusion or silent meditation. Practice can be a small act, listening to someone with compassion, forgiving when we can, or simply smiling when someone hurts us. When we live with a compassionate heart, every small act becomes meditation, and the world around us begins to change as well. That is the spirit of the Buddha's teaching, not to abandon life, but to illuminate it with wisdom. Each of us can be a light in the darkness of ignorance if we dare to look within. When one person awakens, not only are they liberated, but those around them are also touched by that peaceful energy. The Buddha never wanted us to worship him, he wanted us to become our own light. And perhaps, that is the final and deepest lesson, every path to enlightenment begins with oneself. No one can walk for us, awaken for us, or live for us. But when we truly live, truly awaken, every day becomes an opportunity to open wisdom and nurture compassion. When we deeply understand this, the world around us also softens, becomes less harsh, because we have changed. Looking back, the Buddha's teachings remain timeless, not only for those seeking the path, but for anyone searching for a peaceful way to live in a turbulent world. The path does not require belief, but direct experience. You don't have to believe in the Buddha, just live in his spirit, know how to stop, let go, look deeply, and love. Then, happiness is no longer a destination but the very nature of each moment of living. If today, amidst all the noise, you pause for just 1 minute to breathe and smile, to feel your breath going in and out, then in that very moment, you are already walking the Buddha's path. The path of mindfulness, compassion, and freedom. A path that promises no glory, but opens true peace. And if you feel that stillness within your heart, let it spread. Share it, speak about it, let that light grow. Each awakened person is a seed of goodness for the world. Each mindful breath is a flower of peace. If these words touch the depths of your heart, leave a comment and share your reflection, so we may together nurture wisdom and compassion. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, so we can continue this journey into the timeless teachings of the Buddha, the path of stillness, of understanding, and of love. Because, as the Buddha said, no one can light your path for you, except the lamp of your own mind. And when that lamp shines bright, no matter how chaotic the world outside may be, within you there will always remain a place that never fades, a place of peace, of understanding, and of unconditional love.